I had this observation in 2016 that 96-97% of the world was covered by at least a 2G signal, yet half the world was not online. And I found myself thinking, wow, so half the world is touched by internet signals, but half the world is not online. Like, that's not okay. Internet's so amazing, changed my life, changed so many lives. So I quit my career and I started thinking, wondering that, okay, whatever time and energy I have, I want to put together a plan that can make high-speed internet access affordable for the poorest person in the world. And that obviously meant reducing the cost of connectivity by several thousand times. Why I quit is because I saw an ugly world in 2050. I saw climate change. I saw rising income inequality. I saw a lot of bad stuff. Then I thought, what's the point of retirement? What's the point of having, a bank balance of a couple of $1 million when the world's burning down, when life is awful? What's the point? The theory we're working on is we're going to follow the electrical grid to deploy fiber, and we're going to really make it worth the utility's while to get this fiber, because when the utility gets fiber on its power lines, it gets this awesome monitoring mechanism through which it can do fault detection and reduce theft and become a lot more profitable. So you get a lot of value out of fiber being deployed. And the magical part is that as that fiber gets deployed, the same fiber becomes easily available to these cell towers that are located in rural areas, where ordinarily you can't make that deployment feasible. My effort over here is really to redesign the telecommunication system, because the current system that we have, it promotes income inequality, because there's no incentive to build internet infrastructure in rural areas. I believe that can be changed by accessing non-telecom revenues from agriculture and electrical services to subsidize cost of fiber deployments in rural areas. For me, it's like, this is a great experiment, because I am sole owner, sole employee, but there's a whole organization that's stitched together through contracts. And it's stitched together through a story. And we have aligned incentives, and so that's kind of how it's working. I really don't think this is about asking Facebook or Google to say, oh, can you give me $10 billion? No, I think that's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is to create the right system that unlocks lots of value, that mobilizes lots of debt, that makes this thing sustainable. Elon Musk is someone I admire. And he talks about reasoning from first principles. And so I went looking for engineers and physicists in Silicon Valley who could reason from first principles. And that was a major point where I started arriving at the solution, thinking about, okay, what does physics say about the problem in the telecom network? And through a lot of iteration and through finding this amazingly brilliant guy, I learned about this notion called the Shannon limit that talks about the theoretical maximum bandwidth that can pass through a channel. And it's an equation that's mostly driven by capacity in gigahertz. And the more I looked at that equation, the more it became clearer and clearer and clearer that fiber is the future. And it was interesting, this whole journey with Elon Musk first principles and fiber, because he's working on satellite internet, and a number of people would ask me, but Elon is going to launch Starlink, and what about that? And I would always say that 2 strands of fiber have more capacity than the entire Starlink constellation. And I'm certainly not saying that there won't be a value proposition for Starlink. I'm sure, they'll offer much lower latency, and totally there'll be customers for that. But the problem I want to solve is internet access affordable for the poorest person in the world. For that, I need this much capacity. That only comes from fiber. Right now, I have great conviction. This is the right problem to solve. We have the right method. I have total clarity that internet for all equals open access fiber everywhere. And therefore, my mind is very much fixated on how are we going to deploy 10 million kilometers of fiber by April 2028. Why April 2028? NetEquity was incorporated April 26, 2018. So I thought April 26, 2028 is my 10-year date. That is the date before we are going to do 10 million kilometers of fiber globally. I'd like to see audacity. I feel like that's what I miss here. I long for audacity, right? And that's something I'd like to see more of. It kind of, at some level, I feel a bit disheartened, when all these eager eyes, younger eyes are talking about, the next e-commerce platform or Uber for X, and I'm listening to them, and I'm also trying. I'm like, you're trying to play startup. Here's the thing, revenue is always a byproduct, right? You solve a problem, when value gets created, revenue follows. You can't say, I will maximize revenue. It's a flawed strategy. Create value, revenue follows. Solve a problem, and so I hope that is the mindset that we get more of. I'd like more and more startups to begin with that, right? That like the problem first, because I feel like if more and more people fall in love with the problem, I think that will help us grow as a country, as a community. And I think loving the problem is a very big part of this journey. For a whole lot of people, it's like, hey, can you give me advice so I can raise funding capital, so I can find product market fit, so I can do an IPO, so I can sell the company? No, that's a flawed idea, because you'll get knocked out very quickly, because this is a very hard journey. And when, things get tough, you'll have to look really deep inside. Where does my conviction come from? What are my first principles? What am I trying to solve? And at that is the point that, you separate things, right? There's some people who stay in the fight for a very long time, and they're the ones who win. And there's some people who give up. So I wish more and more people would ask themselves, why will I not give up for 15 years? Can I see myself doing this thing for 10, because nothing meaningful happens in less than 10 years, right? So what will I stick to it? Will I stay in this fight? And why? Do I know my reasons? Do I know my first principles? Do I know why this problem is important? I feel like if that happens more and more, we need that conversation more, and we need the how to do growth hacking, and how to, those are all important things, right? What are the right metrics? How do you measure progress, etc.? But I feel like we've done a lot of that. A lot of guys know how to talk lean startup. A lot of guys know, they know what A/B testing is. They know a lot of skills. But I feel like this thing that will make them, become Rocky IV, be like, stay in the fight, right? I want to see more of that. Work on building trust and empower entrepreneurs. Don't tell entrepreneurs, I will give you some funding every 30 days when you give me receipts and I will reimburse you. Basically, if you are willing to back an entrepreneur, then give money to an entrepreneur, let the guy run with it. Otherwise, don't do a deal. But don't do this half 50-50 thing that I will do a deal with you, I will sign something that says $2 million, but then I'll send you $20,000. That's the biggest thing. And I think the second thing is just recognize that negotiation isn't always you win, I lose. If you take so much equity from the other guy, you may remove all incentive for that person to try to do more. So, my big message is stop taking that approach that, the more equity I get, the better off I am. Absolutely not. Imagine getting 60% of a company at seed stage. Now that guy has become your employee, he's not going to give it everything. Recognize that skin in the game is an excellent regulator. Recognize that or do not invest if you cannot believe in someone, right? Spend time getting to know people. What is their why? What are their values? What problem are they solving? And when you build that alignment, empower people. If your entrepreneur is spending 30-40% of my time thinking about, how do I fix up the receipts? When is he going to build his product? When is he going to hire the team? When is he going to evangelize? When is he going to grow? I understand where investors are coming from. I understand that we've got a low trust environment. I understand there have been issues, where somebody has wronged you and you're bringing all that baggage, all that energy into this relationship where you're saying, I need to assume control. But please recognize this. Entrepreneurship is not about control, it's about empowerment. If you cannot recognize that entrepreneurship is not about empowerment, please do not be a VC investor. Do some other kind of business. Listen more. Don't be ashamed to cry. And become more emotionally intelligent. Like, learn how to be with uncomfortable emotions. And in Urdu, इधर जो फतूर बैठा है उसको निकालो, उसके बारे में कुछ करो, उसके लिए मेहनत करो, अपने अंदर जो इस किस्म की चीज़ें आ रही ना कि मैं बड़ा टार्जन हूँ, उनको थोड़ा कंट्रोल करो, पैर ज़रा ज़मीन पे रखो, अपनी मौत को याद करो, ये याद रखो कि तुम कुछ भी नहीं हो, तुम कुछ भी नहीं हो, तुम्हारे पास कुछ खुशकिस्मती है, कुछ चांसेस हैं, पैर ज़मीन पे रखो. I think if my mission doesn't work, it's because I got in my way. My biggest obstacle is me. I need to work on myself and recognize I too am a system. I need to take care of the system. I need to make sure नींद पूरी हो रही है, पानी पूरा पिया जा रहा है, सही किस्म के खाने खाए जा रहे हैं, एक्सरसाइज हो रही है. बिकॉज जब ये सारी चीज़ें होंगी तब मैं टॉप परफॉर्मेंस दूंगा. एथलीट यही करते हैं ना. रॉजर फेडरर विंबलडन खेलने से पहले रात को पार्टी नहीं करता. रॉजर फेडरर मेहनत करता है. तो आई थिंक दैट्स द अदर थिंग आई वुड टेल द यंगर अस, एथलीट बनो. अब मुझे एथलीट बनना है. मतलब एज नर्डी एंड एज स्टूपिड एज इट साउंड्स, मुझे इंटरनेट कनेक्टिविटी का रॉजर फेडरर बनना है. दैट्स समथिंग दैट आई एम काइंड ऑफ इन इट फॉर. एंड मैं जब रॉजर फेडरर जैसे लोगों को देखता हूँ या अच्छे स्पोर्ट्समैन को देखता हूँ, मैं कहता हूँ यार आई लाइक दैट. यार मेहनत करो, गेम ऊपर करो. क्या चाहिए ये बनने के लिए? कम्युनिकेशन चाहिए, राइटिंग स्किल्स चाहिए, रिसर्च चाहिए, सारी ये चीज़ें चाहिए, पर मेहनत करो. रोल मॉडल्स आ गए हैं. आई थिंक ये बहुत बड़ी चीज़ बदली है कि रोल मॉडल्स, वी आर सीइंग मोर रोल मॉडल बिकॉज इट्स लाइक मंकी सी मंकी डू. वी मिमिक, राइट? You can say all you want that you need to have humility, but if you don't have humility, your kid's not having humility. Okay? So, I mean, if people are complaining Pakistanis don't have humility, they need to look inwards. Right? Now we're seeing champions with real humility. Genuine humility, not like the fake humility, genuine humility. I think that's incredible. And I think that's happening.